Deconverted man here. Jordan Peterson. Yes, the man, the myth, the legend, the person that's talking to 20 atheists in the surrounded thing that's a thing. Okay. No, I'm not going to go over the entire video because it's an hour, 28 minutes, and 29 seconds. And then, if I can take a 10-minute video and make it into an hour, this would be like in several parts if I was responding to everything said. Because I wouldn't just respond to Peterson. I would respond to the people responding to Peterson as well and try to give it a thorough analysis, which would be extraordinarily difficult to do live. At any rate, there are 4 claims made, and thankfully they wrote down what those claims are. And so I'm just going to go over these claims and respond to them myself, because every individual will have their own response to these claims, and each of those responses will be interesting to hear if others do this as well. So we'll start with the number 1 claim, which is that atheists reject God, but they don't understand what they're rejecting. So this is the fallacy that I want to invent, called special knowledge or mind reading. This fallacy happens when and if you claim to know what I know, think, feel, believe, or don't, etc. So you don't know what I know. Now, the first person that goes up says, well, I had this Catholic upbringing, etc., etc. So I think I know what God is. And Peterson then goes on to make other claims about the guy that he couldn't possibly know. But again, I'm not responding to the entire video. I'm just responding to this one claim. How do you know that I don't know what I'm rejecting? So that's a question. How do you know that I don't understand what I'm rejecting? By the way, I'm going to put that in quotes, because to me, and of course natural language is fluid, so words mean slightly different things to different people depending on the context, etc. To me, this word rejecting suggests there is a God and I am rejecting it. But I don't believe in God, so it's not that I'm rejecting it. It's I don't even think it is in the first place. There's nothing to reject. I don't know why I decided to type as I talk, but at any rate, maybe just you guys have something to look at as I, because I'm not looking at the video. So how do you know that? Because you would have to know what my mind is. Not only my mind, you'd have to know the mind of every single atheist. Now, this also assumes that the atheist has heard of God in the first place. So friendly YouTuber Johnny Drive-By, who was born atheist, if you will, raised atheist, so to speak, and so he had a null view of God, and only saw that other people believed in it. and never participated in that belief. So what is it? He's not rejecting anything. He never interacted with it. And when he looked at it and examined it, he found the claims of those who claim God to be wanting, to have lack of substance there. So that really does mean that you're assuming that the atheist even has a God in the first place. The God is claimed by the believer or the person group that is making the claim. They make all the claims. I don't know why I gotta stop typing. They make all the claims regarding God. God is X. I swear it's gonna stop. X, Y, and Z. I can't help it. God is X, Y, and Z. And my question, of course, is how do you know God is any of those things? What method did you use to determine that God is these things? How do you know what God is? How do you know what God is? This is not that uncommon of a claim, though. I've heard and been told that when I deconverted from Christianity, that I wasn't a true Christian, because a true Christian would never give up God because they've experienced the real God, and how could you ever leave that? Well, I'll tell you, you realize that there is no true God to experience. That's how you leave that. You realize that the emotions that you felt that you once attributed to God are actually self-generated. And so I don't. Not only is this this is a non-claim, but I could say that you accept God and you don't know what you're accepting. And it has the same veracity, has the same substance. You don't know what God is either. You know what people have said God is, but you don't know what God actually is. You know what you believe God is, but you don't know what God actually is, if God is anything at all other than just an idea that somebody put forward. That claim that you don't know what you're accepting when it comes to God is just as flimsy as your claim that I don't know what I'm rejecting. I don't believe in God because there's no empirical evidence, repeatable test, or sound argument for it that I am aware of. God is proposed by some to be certain characteristics and by others to be different characteristics. And again, I'd love to go into more depth with what Peterson says in this video. That might be another video. I mean, if I did cover the whole video, it would be in several parts. I'm sure you want my take on that. Part 1, part 5, part 100, I don't know. But at any rate, because he says stuff I would love to respond to, but I think that in my book, Caught Between an Infinite Hope and a Finite Despair, which is available on Amazon, buy it if you haven't already. Read it, please, if you have it, and leave a review if you're able to. But in that, I document my experience with church and with how much time and energy I put into God. And I had an interview where somebody actually read the book, and or it was a talk, not an interview, but whatever. And he basically said, it didn't seem like you had a lot about your relationship with Jesus. I was like, well, I thought that was kind of obvious by what I wrote. But I don't think it would have been enough, no matter how much I'd put my relationship with Jesus, because this claim is a projection to protect your belief. This claim is so that you can pretend that I and others don't know God. We rejected a false God, not the real God. And this keeps your belief safe. It keeps your belief from feeling challenged, because your belief feels challenged because somebody else doesn't hold that same belief. So when somebody doesn't hold the same idea that you hold, and that idea that you hold is something that you're very used to, or something sacred, something you really care about, that can cause all sorts of chemical reactions in your brain. There's studies I haven't yet read, but about religion and God belief, and how psychology can explain how the reactive systems that protect kick in. So I don't want to talk too much about it because I haven't read it yet. But um, this is something said to protect your ideas, not not to not to negate my position. But let's just grant this for a moment. Okay, that doesn't change anything, because I still don't believe in it, whatever it is. I just don't know what it is. I'm not believing in at this point. I'm just ignorant. Okay, I still don't believe in it, so you haven't really changed anything. So your new claim is now that if only I presented to you the real thing, then you wouldn't reject that one. But of course, you don't know that. Maybe I would reject that one too. Maybe I would reject all forms of it. So I think that this is really a mental defense and not a actual substantive claim. Um, one moment, I need to do something real quick. Okay. All right. Now, next claim. All right. Oh, this is just going to turn into a me telling my about my books, isn't it? I already mentioned my first book. Now I have to mention my third book. Uh, um, well, so be it, I guess. I mean, I have to. I'm not. I don't have a choice here, but to mention it. Morality and purpose can't be found within science. Well, uh, and now I have to mention my book here, Logic and Morals, uh, which is a very short book, but I make a valid and sound argument that goes from logic to morals. I By the way, I didn't write this part. That my brother wrote that part. So just if you're curious, I only wrote what's in the book. I didn't write this little bit. Anyways, um, and I say, I start with very simple principles that can be observed in science, things that are concrete and real and observable. So if you start with something, you say humans need to eat just to live. That's an objective truth. And then you can use science to observe human behavior. How do humans go about getting the substance that they need to eat? What activities do they engage in to do this? And how does that vary across society or time? And you can use science at every single level to examine that and get the data for that information. So it started out, humans were tribal. We sent out people to hunt and others to stay and gather, and for various reasons, the men tended to go be the ones that hunt, and the women tended to be the ones that gather. But there was exceptions to that rule in certain societies, or it was more balanced in others. There was roles for different people. Elders played this role, and there were certain roles that everybody had, and those roles were kind of assigned to them in a hierarchy. And as humans developed more complicated social structures, that society changed more so when agriculture was really developed. That changed everything about humans, because then you didn't have to go get the food, you had the food there. So now you have to do different work, but you still have to do work, but one person does the work to do the food stuff, then now other people are able to focus their efforts and energy on other things. And so then of course society changes and reshapes itself because of that. And as that gets more complicated, then the society gets more complicated, the interaction gets more complicated. And the way that you now can go get food is you can hop in your car and pay $10 for a Big Mac. It used to be a lot cheaper than that, but now it's really stupidly expensive. I don't know why. But at any rate, that's fairly simple as far as how to get food. But if you don't have $10, well, you could go and steal food, maybe. Um, but you'd have to be pretty desperate to do that. And there might be alternative ways to get food for cheap or for free where you didn't have to steal, because stealing puts you in a position of danger regarding other humans who might not like it, and also regarding your personal freedom being taken away. Even though you need food to survive, it is better to not risk going to jail and starve than it is for many than to do that and suffer the consequences or potential consequences. So at any rate, the morality there of how do you acquire food is a moral thing, because your behavior in order to get that food is part of morals. So the part that I find interesting with apologetic people, the apologists, the theists, and maybe atheists as well, is that morals are talked about without talking about ethics. And I find that weird. We leave ethics to the side. Ethics is the thing that grounds the morals. There's various ethical systems, but a lot of people don't know what their ethical system is or really even have one per se. Now, I picked utilitarian just because it's easy to remember. Least harm to least amount of people, most good for the most amount of people. Man, that's easy. Yes, I run over the one guy on the track and leave the 5 people alone. Okay, simple, easy to remember. Not always true in practice, perhaps, but at least it's easy to remember. And the different ethical systems, I have to look it up every time because I don't remember them all. Virtue ethics, code of conduct, selfish ethics, whatever. And so your morals, since ethics is your road guide in saying, you want to achieve goal X, Y, Z, that's the ethics, then the morals are objective in that they point to the goal. Or I guess I can just put it, So in that sense, morals are objective. But in a more broad sense, since you had to pick which ethical system in the first place, that's ultimately subjective. And because sometimes the way that you get to the goal will vary, that too can be seen as subjective, just depending on how you look at that or how you frame that verbally speaking. Some people say, no, morals are purely subjective. Others say, no, they're purely objective. And I think that there's perhaps a blend of both, and it just depends upon how you frame, what you're calling objective or subjective, because natural language is flexible. But maybe in an academic sense, you could say it is this thing and that's what morals are. And regarding ethics, that's what these things are. And But you could use science to understand every bit of this. So the phrase though used is within. What does that mean? And I mean this at a very deep level. Like, I don't know what you mean within science, because science is an activity of discovery, of data gathering and sorting and scrutiny, and it's more than just a tool. It's a philosophy. It's all these things, and I would say science can include informal logic, because then that makes me technically a scientist if I do that, and that makes me feel kind of good. So I like that idea. So I am an amateur scientist because I haven't yet been paid to do informal logic. But once I get paid to do informal logic, then I can call myself a professional logician and a professional scientist. Although maybe I wouldn't call myself a scientist because I want to stay a little bit humble. So within science, well, what do you mean? Because science is this application where really nothing is found within science. That's not even a thing. So you mean by using science, you wouldn't find morality? Well, no, that's wrong. I showed that was wrong. Purpose. Well, no, you could absolutely use science to deduce a wide scale purpose of humans. All you would need is a wide scale survey of humans. What's your purpose? Ask that question and send that out to, I don't know, a lot of people, like a lot of people, hundreds and thousands of people. You're going to get a lot of answers, but you filter all those answers into a machine and you have AI look at it and say, okay, what's the general trend? What words come up more often? What things come up? And you'd find quickly there'd be a lot of similarities: love, and relationships, family, things like that you would find, right? So you can absolutely find morality and purpose using science. You can find these things. What I think that is meant here and by the way, this claim is nothing to do with atheism. I mean, I don't know why he's versus 20 atheists. I think that's the show. That's the gimmick, But morality and ethics, who knows? That's not an atheist thing. Atheists have morals and ethics, but there is no atheistic morals or ethics, because atheism isn't a worldview. It just tells you, I don't believe in God. That's it. It doesn't tell you what my ethical system is, what my moral views are. And people that are atheists will disagree with me on how I view ethics and morals, and say, no, Deacon man, they're subjective. And I'm like, well, technically yes, but also technically no, because you can use the word this way, like, okay, let's fight it, okay, but I would on a technical level maybe, but there is no one thing. And even if your ethics are what I consider the worst ethics, which is divine command theory, God said do X, so you do it, or vice versa, whatever. Vice versa? How do you spell that? Vice versa. There we go. Thank you. Spell check. If God says do not do it, you don't do it. You don't get to question that. You don't get to say, is this right or wrong? If God says to do it, then you do it, period. And then, of course, you could say God is good, so he's only going to tell me to do good things. I mean, how do you know God is good? You're not allowed to question God. So you're not allowed to determine whether God is good or not. You just hope that God is good. Also, you have to believe that God is actually telling you to do this. So going back to Abraham, classic story, God tells Abraham, go kill your kid. He gets his kid and takes him up the hill to kill him. He's ready to do it. God's like, just kidding. I'm going to change my mind. And the moral is obey God. That Abraham's rewarded for his obedience to God. And I'm like, that's the wrong moral. I think that it would be much more moral if Abraham said, no, I'm not going to kill him, and God says, it was a trick. I was just seeing if you were a moral person, really ready to be obliterated perhaps by the all-powerful God for disobeying God. You chose to do the right thing because killing is wrong, especially killing your kid. Even if you think God is telling you to do it, you do the right thing. So the moral to me should have been about doing the right thing, regardless of who tells you to do it or not do it. But no, that the story is made to be about obedience to God, in my view. Different people might have different ideas of that story, but this claim falls apart because yes, morality and purpose can be found using science. All right. I see lots of chat going on. I'll get to chat in a bit here. Don't worry. I will read your things. I will. I swear I will. Hopefully nothing stupid's going on over there. I can't really see it because I'm reading my own screen. Everybody worships something, including atheists, even if though they might not know it. Okay, so this is a Q Quay. Or however the fuck you spell that, I don't know. I have to look up that thing every damn time. It's a you as well. Haha. You as well. So we both believe in stuff. We both worship stuff. We both have faith in stuff. No. You don't get to include me in your thing. I think that the actual claim is that I can make to this is you don't even know what worship is. Remember, that goes back to the first claim. You don't even know what worship is. What does it mean to worship something? Because if you knew what it was to worship something, then you would, and you know me at all, you would know I don't worship. But what do you mean by worship? Well, I have to make some assumptions here, and perhaps even need to look up the definition. But and maybe even when I was a Christian, maybe I didn't fully comprehend worship, but I think I did. And it, prayer and dedication and time spent, energy spent thinking about the thing, giving glory to the thing, loving the thing. Of course, it's all supposed to be a person of God or Jesus or the combination thereof. Spending money on the just dedicating a large portion of your life to that in a intimate spiritual way. And I go, okay, well, what do I spend time and energy on? YouTube? Do I worship YouTube? Well, no, I'm not thinking about YouTube when I'm not doing YouTube. At least not as much as, if I have to compare and contrast it to God, right? Because you're saying I worship something, and if worship means what it meant for God, then I'd say, no, I don't worship anything anymore. I don't have the regard to YouTube or Deconverted Man or Informal Logic or Gmail or watching Rick and Morty or whatever the hell it is. I don't hold those in the same regard as I did God when I did hold God in that regard. So I don't think I worship anything. I don't think anything is worth worshiping or worthy of worship, and that if something was worthy of worship, it wouldn't want to be worshipped. It wouldn't need the worship. I think the worship blinds you in some way, shape, or form. Now, I'm very cautious when it comes to ideas and thoughts and feelings and logic and all that. And I always want to encourage myself and everyone else, challenge what you believe is true, or challenge everything you think, challenge all the things constantly, especially if you really hold it near and dear. Uh, because you want to keep your brain flexible. You want to keep your ideas uh, to be something that you can be wrong about, you know, because, well, don't get locked in to thinking that you're right about this thing, because you might very well be wrong. So then that means I don't worship something. I don't worship anything. But then there's this other claim. You don't know it. Well, that's interesting. So this reminds me of the claim made in the Bible that everybody knows there's a God deep down in their heart, but that you suppress this knowledge. So you have the knowledge, but you don't know that you have the knowledge. Well, isn't that very convenient? So I don't know that I'm doing this thing, but I am doing this thing. I'm making it completely unfalsifiable. That no matter how much I say, no, I don't know that there's a God, you say, oh, but the thing says you do. No, I don't. Oh, because that's you secretly believe it. You just don't know that you believe it. No, that's not true either. So this is an empty, vacuous claim. And anybody could claim you don't know that you're actually not worshiping anything. The claim can be turned around in full back on the person. Hey, you don't know either. You don't know that you actually believe that I'm a lobster. You didn't know that. You didn't know that you owed me $10,000. I know, amazing. But I'm making you aware now, and you might be like, I don't owe you. But you see, you do. You just didn't know that you did. And actually, your denial proves it more. See, so this is just an unfalsifiable claim and should be rejected as such. Last claim. Oh my word, almost done. I can see clearly now. The sky is whatever. Atheists accept Christian morality, but deny the religious foundational stories. By that, I think you meant deny. I think that this is such an insane claim. No, I don't accept Christian morality, and I would make the claim you don't know what Christian morality actually is. Going back to that first claim. You don't know what Christian morality actually is. You think that you do, but you don't. How dare you think that you understand Christian morality? Because in order to say that you fully comprehend Christian morality, you're now making an insanely huge claim that, well, many apologists do make, that you understand how to interpret the Bible correctly and nobody else does. You got it. You figured it out. You're smart. You're brilliant. You have the right way of understanding the Bible. And why do I say that? There's 613 laws in the Old Testament, also known as the Torah, that no Christian follows. Not a single one. They'll accept the top 10, but they won't accept the other ones, even though Jesus said that they're all valid. So that's Christian morality, but Christians don't act like it is. Well, what's Christian morality? Do to others as you do to themselves? That's not enough to form morality around. And it's kind of a bad idea to some degree, because how you want to be treated might not be how somebody else wants to be treated. You know? So you don't know what Christian morality is. And I don't accept it because I don't know what it is in full either, because I certainly don't have the right interpretation of the Bible, and I don't think anybody does, and maybe there isn't a right interpretation. It's too complicated to do that with, or
what it means to be moral to one Christian is going to be a little bit different for every Christian. And so, what does it mean? It just means this loose idea. But what came before Christian morality? Zoroastrian? Jewish morality, at least Jewish first. So we all accept Jewish morality, but we deny X. We all accept Zoroastrian morality. We all accept Roman morality. Well, that's not true. Romans practice things that we don't practice anymore. Exactly. And the ancients practice things that we no longer practice. So we don't accept the morality of X, Y, and Z, at least in full, perhaps parts of it, but not all of it. So this is a half truth at best. Deny the religion's foundational stories. Uh, Again, this deny, I don't like that. Um, I don't care. I don't know what the foundational means here, because that again suggests that you think that you know more about the Bible than anyone else. You know which are the most important stories that are foundational and which stories you can ignore. How do you know which ones? Jesus cursing the fig tree. That's not a foundational story. How do you know that? Well, I mean, it's not that important. How do you know? You don't. You have no idea what the foundational story is. Give me a break. But no, what I don't believe in, which is the correct way to phrase that, not deny, uh, is the magic. That's what I deny. That's what I don't believe in. Is the magical bits where people do, you know, recover from death and recover eyesight and all that. I don't believe. But there are some ideas that you can draw morals from in various stories, but I'm not sure what those morals are. The two or three kids, the father sends out the sons and gives them talents, which actually means money. But it's funny because in English talent means, well, like, America's Got Talent. It's like a thing that you're doing really well, right? So it has this interesting double meaning that's completely accidental. uh, but the one person doesn't do anything with their money, the other person spends it all and wastes it all, the other person invests it or whatever, and he's only upset with the one that didn't do anything with it. you know and it's like, okay, the lesson is, if even if you waste your money, at least you're doing something with it. Don't just do nothing with it. Do something with it, even if it's not a good thing. Just do something. I guess that's the message, I guess. But somebody else might look at that same story and come to a wildly different conclusion about what that story means. How do we know who's right? There's no objective way to do it, is there? Is there a way to determine who is correct about the interpretation? Well, the whole point of an interpretation is you're interpreting it. That's why we watch a movie with some message or whatever, and we can walk away with 2 different or 10 different ideas about it. uh, Take the Avengers movies. Some people say, oh, Infinity War is better than Endgame. I liked Endgame just fine. I don't know, it's like they're both really good. I thought, it's like, oh, this one's really better than the other one sucked. I'm like, yeah, well, I don't agree. I thought it was fine. They're both good in my view, but you're free to not like it. You're free to dislike it. Some people, I don't know who, but somewhere out there, there's somebody that liked Captain Marvel, I guess. I don't know who that person is. It's not me. But yeah, you can like whatever. Um, and what is it about? Okay, what's Thanos wants to eliminate half of everything so that the other half lives. Which doesn't really make a lot of sense because you're eliminating all plants and animals, and that, I mean, that does, like, you would have to leave the plants alone so that the more is there, and why not just give people more stuff? You know, why are you so stuck with this? What's Thanos's message? And you could debate that until you're blue in the face and get nowhere with it, because it's whatever you want it to be. There is no, you know, message that. And well, the film writer could say, well, the message was, fill in the blank. And you might say no to the film writer and say, that's not the message, you're wrong. So we do that with stories that we tell each other. And like it or not, the Bible is a series of stories written by people for people, that are meant to convey different ideas and thoughts and feelings and morals and things like this. Okay, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. There's this character called Garrick and a character called Dr. Bashir, and they're friends, question mark. And Dr. Bashir tells Garrick about the boy who cried wolf. Tells him the story. We all know the story. And Bashir says, see, lying doesn't pay off. And Garrick says, no, that tells me not to tell the same lie more than once. Because his culture is different than human culture. He arrives at a different conclusion about the story. The moral wasn't to not lie. The moral was not to tell the same lie. That's a valid understanding of the tale. Yeah. So, at any rate, I think that these claims are vacuous, empty, and without much merit. And I think that they demonstrate. Now, I don't know if Peterson came up with these claims or if he was saddled with these claims, but he accepted them and he said them. So he must agree with them, I would think. Otherwise, he wouldn't say them. I don't know if he came up with them himself, but he certainly supports them and endorses them. And it makes you go, well, man, you might be a really good psychiatrist or psychologist. At one point you were, at least. Maybe you help people. Maybe you're still trying to help people today, and you might be effective at that. I listen to your interviews now and again. They sometimes are interesting, sometimes are boring, whatever. I get something out of it, here and there. But when it comes to the God thing, you don't even know what it is that you are trying to do with that. I think it's something like, I don't want to say I believe in God outright, but I'll let people know that I believe in God. But I'll do it in a very strategic way so that nobody really gets upset at me, so that my beliefs are ultimately protected. That's some psychoanalyzing there. I can't possibly know that. But I think that because he does believe in God, or he acts like he does, that therefore his psychology is blocked because he is used to this idea of God. So he can't challenge it. He's used to his idea of atheist, so he can't challenge it because he could, but it's very, very hard to do that. I don't know that this thing will help him to do that or not. I have no idea. But anyways, so those are my thoughts on these 4 claims that are made. Now to look at the chat, because oh my god, there's so much chat. Okay, so somebody's being an idiot and they're gone. There we go. Sorry about that. I need to make people moderators, I suppose. I watched this while I was falling asleep. GP acting like the pillage. I can't say that word, but I know that word. Petulant child. It was cringe. Yeah, I mean, no, I had the lobster first. Not true lobsterist. That's right. He's not a true lobsterist. Um, yeah. I realized that the thing that I thought was God was me. That's now that applies to me and me alone, by the way, because as far as I know, somebody else could be experiencing the real God for all I know. I have no way to measure that, test that, or anything, so I don't know. I just know for me that happened to be correct. Um, let's see. It's Memorial Day. Science can't find my face. This is true. Your face. Yeah, it's gone off the rails. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair statement to some degree. Let's see. Hello, little gremlinses. Blind. What do you mean by blind? I'm guessing that you guys might have been responding to that troll. I do apologize for I got to make somebody mod. I got to figure out how to do that. I forgot how to do that. Let's see. Yeah, so you had to deal with that troll there. Well, it gave you guys something to do. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Okay, so yeah, then I banned the troll. Okay, so I think I got through all your comments, and again, I gotta make somebody. I gotta find out how do I make people a mod? I don't remember. I'll have to look that up and do that. At any rate, so yeah, that's all my thoughts on these claims. Let me know if you're gonna make a video on this. Email it to me so I can check it out. Because if you try to put it on the thing, YouTube will just eat the comment. Jordan's been struggling with physical and mental illness for a while now. Well, I know he's definitely been struggling with different physical things. I don't know about mental, perhaps, possibly. But regardless of if he is or isn't, his ideas are still worth examining. And so are all ideas. It's not the person, it's the ideas that must be attacked, in my view, or scrutinized. So that's it. Until next anxiety. Oh yeah, probably. You can't be that famous and not be anxious. Yeah. All right. So click the user, then scroll down. Scroll down, click the user, then scroll down. What do you mean? I'm guessing you mean in YouTube, not in SteamYard. Can't do it in SteamYard. Okay. Until next time, be skeptical, and after next time, stay skeptical. And boy, this was a thing. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on these claims in the comments, or if you're going to do a video, let me know about it in email so I can check it out. And until next time, do the thing. I don't know, whatever that means. All right, pushing the button.